Every shadow holds a story. Every story hides a haunting truth. If it chills, bewilders, or keeps you up at night, you'll find it here. Step into the darkness with us and dare to listen to the Ghost Encounters podcast. Welcome back, all you spooky people, to the Ghost Encounters podcast. I am paranormal investigator Justin Torok.
And I'm Jordan, the group scientist.
I'm Hannah, your death-obsessed bestie.
We are back, everybody. It is season 4. We had quite a bit of a break. We are so sorry we couldn't get to this podcast sooner, while it was October, while it was spooky season. But
when it was relevant.
Right. Well, you know what?
When it was relevant.
For us and our listeners, I think everyday spooky season. Right?
It is.
That's true.
Every day is Halloween.
Exactly.
When you live in Delulu land with
But we all had a lot of things going on. I started a new business, and we had multiple weddings that we were in. It was just impossible to get season 4 started. But we're here. We're back, and we're on video. Now you can put all those disturbing things that we said to a face.
Yay. Now you can be like, oh, that's what they look. Just kidding.
You know what? I think we look pretty fucking good.
Oh.
Yeah, we're
Thanks, Justin.
we're body confident up in here.
That's right. That's right.
This is, now my dad's gonna see me and know. He's gonna be like,
That's
now
true.
I can't pretend that you're not my daughter. Hi, Dad. Did we talk about my
Hi,
dad?
Dave.
Shout out to Dave. Did we talk about how he commented on?
Yes.
Jesus Christ.
I got a notification late at night that Dave, her dad, commented on a video that said, "Yes, Hannah, Dad is listening."
And it was the ghost sex one.
Oh my God.
And I'm just like,
out.
Dad, I'm throwing up.
That's terrible.
He just texted back, "Oh my God." All caps. You're like, "I'm mortified. I'm vomiting."
It was all true. I was mortified and vomiting. Oh.
Well, we are so happy to be back. This is so different for us to be on video. We had a lot of people asking us to do this, and it was a bit of a challenge to coordinate all the intricate things that we had to do to make this happen, but we're here, we're making it happen. We're in a new space, a new studio space. This is awesome. So we have a lot of new things here, and we are so excited. This episode, we are talking about witchcraft, and we're gonna go through some of the different kinds of witchcraft in culture and society. We already went through the Salem witch trials. That is its own episode. You can go back and listen to that. And I even brought on someone who is a descendant from someone from the witch trials. Sophie Goad is a descendant of, I believe, Sarah Good. Good became Goad, and she's a descendant. Yeah.
That's why, it's wild that good would become goad when good is already a word.
Yeah.
Like, usually I would think, like, I'm not trying to, shit in anybody's cereal or nothing. That sucks.
Well, I think...
They probably just changed it because they're like, okay, let's put a little finesse on that.
Yeah.
So a lot of times back then, sometimes the only thing you had was your name. And if it was already slandered with the fact that you were a witch, sometimes you changed it to try to get away from that. So maybe that's where it came in. Who knows? But she found out she was a descendant, and it's a really good episode. We talk about those Salem witch trials. We break it down. Why did it happen? What kind of things happened? Pretty good.
Talk about the ergotism.
We talked about a lot. I don't know if we talked about that. But what I want to do is talk about a witch trial episode, but more focus on Europe.
Ooh.
Because... It's interesting. The Salem witch trials happened on the tail end of the witch trial craze.
Mm-hmm.
So they were happening a long time before that. And I was just listening to another video, not a podcast, but Tommy was actually listening to it, and it was pretty good. She talked about, she's like a professor in witches, and she was talking about all the aspects of why this happened. But we'll get into that into another episode. This episode, we're going to talk about witches in different cultures, and let's get right into it.
Now that we're on camera, am I supposed to
I don't know. We don't know what we're doing. Am I looking at you? Am I looking at the camera? Just smiling?
I've literally been looking all over this goddamn place. I have no idea where the fuck I'm supposed to be looking now.
As you all know, we have notes. We do research. We have papers and stuff, so we're going to be looking down. We don't have, a professional news studio with prompters everywhere and stuff like that. So, we're just real people like you that are obsessed with weird shit.
We're doing that indie bullshit, man.
Okay, this is interesting. Hannah, let's go right to you first and talk about I see what you have here. The Last Witch of England. Very
The
cool.
Last Witch in England. Yes, this was something that I wanted to do a little bit of reading on for a while. I first heard about it I do a lot of audiobooks, and I have the audiobook of Spook by Mary Roach, which is kind of like a skeptical dissection of the paranormal, but like in general, she's not like a dick about it, because I hate when people are dicks about it.
I just hate dicks in general.
Yeah, like don't be a dick about it. Oh, this is like double side printed. That's very nice.
The things we find nice in adulthood, right?
Right? God damn, I'm boring.
And another thing, I'm gonna say, like, I already messed up a little bit in the beginning. Like, we used to be very anal about not messing up and re-recording things if you stumbled over a word. Now, you know what? Since we're on camera, we're just gonna fly with it.
Yeah.
Fuck it.
I'm gonna
We make
misspeak.
mistakes.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm gonna misspeak so hard at you.
Oh my god, I'm gonna have like flub mouth eventually and be like, blah, blah, blah.
It's gonna be bad.
Flub mouth, is that a term?
I don't think so.
Well,
It is
no, it
now.
is now.
It is now. It is now.
It is now.
Okay. Let me get back into it. I don't remember what I wrote. I never remember what I wrote. It's like I always end up doing this like very late at night in like a fugue state while possibly pretty stoned. But getting back to Spook by Mary Roach. It's a good book. You should read it if you like some skepticism without somebody being an asshole. But contained in that book, we had a short section about Helen Duncan, who is billed as the last witch in England. Helen Duncan was a Scottish séance medium, best known as the last person to be imprisoned under the Witchcraft Act of 1735. And honestly, that sounds punk as fuck.
Right?
As a medium, her knack, like the thing that she was like really known for, was producing ectoplasm.
Oh.
Right?
From where? Do we want to know?
I mean, usually it was through her mouth.
Okay.
But like, I think the thing about ectoplasm was that it could come from like basically any orifice. So you're just leaking the shit.
Ew.
Oh.
That doesn't sound good.
That's horrible. I think that everybody is basically kind of aware of what ectoplasm is, which is like it's the snotty shit that ghosts are made of when they manifest. In
Right.
the human
You
world.
see about it and hear about it a lot in like the Ghostbusters movie.
Yeah, like it's an interesting bridge between a ghost being a fucking ghost and a ghost being a thing that you could like stick your hand in.
Yeah.
Helen Duncan was born Victoria Helen McCrae McFarland in Callander, Scotland on November 25th, 1897. Happy birthday, Helen. It's coming up.
It is
It is
coming
coming
up.
It's like a week from now.
Yeah.
And I was like, wow, what an interesting confluence. Worth mentioning, because she was known as Nell privately, she had kind of like a professional nickname of Hellish Nell, which is...
Well, I mean,
it's hilarious. I mean, it's fucking stupid. But I think that's funny. It's very like turn of the century kind of funny. According to a number of the sources that I skimmed, Helen was known to be a majorly weird kid, and it mentioned that she would often alarm her schoolmates with, like, they didn't really say what it was, but it was either possibly dramatic displays of mediumship, possibly predictions for the future, and like general like freaking out a whole bunch and scaring the other kids. Like nobody really got into specifics of like what she said or what she did, but that's both telling for what we're, going to see for the rest of Helen's life and for her mediumship in general. When I was also that fucking kid though. Like I was the kid who's like, my mom loves to tell this story where I like scared a bunch of other 8-year-olds because the sky got dark. I'm like, there is 100% going to be a tornado and we're all gonna fucking die.
I would have lost my shit. That used to be my biggest fear ever. I would have lost it. I'd have been one of the crying ones. I would have been crying.
Yeah, like I would make the kids cry all the time because I was just a mess.
You're a dick. You're talking about everybody else being dicks. You're a dick.
I wasn't to be a dick. I was dead too in this situation. I just saw it fucking coming. Anyway, Helen, I see you, Helen.
But there was no tornado, was there?
No, there never was.
No.
Like it was like Hurricane Andrew or something.
Oh my God.
Something was coming though.
Yeah, it was something. It was
Something?
like it was extreme weather, and I was tapped into that shit as an 8-year-old.
See, I was the kid who would much rather try to scare the kids getting the candy versus actually going out and trick or treating.
You're still that guy.
I'm still that guy.
Yeah, I don't say
That's-
word.
I was
Yeah.
a super shy kid. I didn't do anything like this.
Oh my God. Were you one of us or were you normal?
I apparently was just down with the ghosts, and that's about all I got.
Yeah.
Well, you are a witch, so
No, I'm not.
yes, you are. Okay,
Ain't nobody
I'm
normal on this
so sorry
podcast.
to interrupt your story, but Jordan is a witch. Her mother is definitely a witch. Her
Yeah.
mother's a green witch, and she can make dead plants come back to life and change their color. It's wild. And Jordan, you have some weird connection with electricity because I have seen you start things that have no electricity whatsoever.
Yeah, that has happened.
Yes, a dead car you started by saying, "I wish it would start," and then it just fucking
punched the
started.
steering wheel and it started.
Yep, and then the light outside the back door where the light bulb was burnt out and that switch didn't work, and yet somehow.
Yeah, you were there that day. You
Yeah.
got to see that one.
Yeah. I'm convinced she's a witch. Anyway.
I'm not.
No, I was just gonna clap, and I'm like, you shouldn't clap in front of me. It's a bad plan.
Okay.
All right. Hellish Mel.
Yeah, back to Helen. When she finished school, Helen worked in the Dundee Royal Infirmary where she met her future husband, Henry Duncan. He was a wounded war vet and a cabinet maker who supported Helen in her mediumship. We love a supportive king.
Yes,
Together,
we do.
we do.
Yes, we do.
Together, they had 6 children, and Helen was primarily a mother for them. However, she also worked part-time in a bleach factory.
Oh, that's not a good place to work.
I would have
No.
such a headache.
Oh my God! There's what's bleach even made of? Imagine that, like
lot of
I just think of
chemicals.
bleach as like
It's a
bleach. It's
chemical.
already a thing. Like in my brain, it's an element. It cannot be broken down further.
It breaks other things down.
Yeah, the element of bleach. Probably ammonia. I don't know.
I feel like ammonia's right.
I know that you can't mix bleach. And
If you know the answer, send
Yeah,
it to us.
someone has to tell us.
Right
that
into the
one.
podcast and tell me what bleach is made of.
So that we can get flagged by the fucking FBI.
I'm already on some fucking list, man.
Goddamn, shut down this podcast. They're talking about bleach and fucking ammonia.
Does not sound healthy. I have it in my notes.
Love how you hit the table.
Why did it fuck up the mic?
You can hear it. You can hear it.
Oh no. Okay.
Oh, I'm so happy we're back.
Me too.
I missed you guys.
I've missed you. Even though we've seen each other, I still miss you.
Multiple times. I don't
It's just
know.
not the same. All right, Hellish Mel.
Starting around
Bleach.
1926, Helen began offering seances to small audiences where she claimed, with the assistance of her spirit guide Peggy, to be able to manifest spirits of the recently deceased via ectoplasm that she extruded from her mouth.
I just yawned so obnoxiously. Sorry,
No
everybody.
ectoplasm, right?
I'm sorry.
No
No.
okay, good.
I'm cleared, but that was very rude of me. Sorry.
That's okay. So she did this, and she got audiences, and she became pretty well known for these very buck wild seances. And they were so wild that after only 2 years, Helen was already being investigated for trickery.
Of course. I'm surprised it didn't happen sooner.
Yeah, seriously.
What you
I'm on camera. I'm on camera now.
You'll
this is
probably
like
see Hannah just chucking it, and I'm like delicately placing it down so you can't hear
This
the
is what we dealt with the last couple years with Hannah, where we'd have to stop. I have to edit things out because we're just now we're not editing anything out.
No,
It's just
okay.
all kept in.
sorry. This is like my full license to be as obnoxious as possible.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Now Hannah's fans can see the real Hannah.
Yes.
Sorry. Now, I guess this is probably the time to mention that Helen was a total fraud of almost cartoonish homemade haunted house level proportions. This is like a Scooby-Doo villain with like turn of the century craft supplies.
I love Scooby-Doo.
Yeah.
Same.
Who doesn't?
Scooby-Doo is like, he's at the center of my worship altar. I designed.
Yeah, I mean they were
Scooby-Doo.
paranormal investigators pretty much.
There you go. That's why.
And we were watching them on cartoon.
Yeah, That's it.
No wonder we're fucking obsessed.
Absolutely. And it's one day we'll bust like a millionaire in a rubber mask, and that'll make our lives.
Yeah. But Scooby-Doo taught us that the real villains were people.
Ooh. That was a good one.
All right, back to Helen. I am almost unable to imagine what it would be like to be in the room with one of her seances. A person at this seance, like, you gotta think that they would probably not be a person with the benefit of history to know that spiritualism is like 99.9% bullshit. They have also probably never seen a scary movie or like been to a haunted house, so this is like mind-blowing. The room is dark. Their eyes are probably closed. It's like shit they would tell you to do at a seance. You'd be holding hands. Helen is probably doing multiple voices. Everything is probably like very disorienting. Stuff is moving around. There might be like apparitions of some description moving around. And like, you gotta also remember that these people are probably grieving a recent loss.
Probably. That's probably why they're there.
That's why you're there.
So you meant that like spiritualism is bullshit to them because they're seeing like something that's kind of a little bit dramatic? Is that what you mean by that?
Well,
Sorry,
I'm
I just
thinking
wanna
that
clarify.
like spiritualism from the lens of like us right now, you're like, oh yeah, it was like an old lady kicking the table underneath.
Oh, okay, I
rapping.
see.
The Fox
Right.
sisters were all cracking their joints.
Uh-huh.
Everything was made out of like fucking paper mache and spit.
Okay, I get it.
Yeah.
just wanted to clarify.
Yeah,
Wasn't it Houdini who was showing that seances were, most of them were fake, and he had like, I think he was doing seances, or his wife was, and they had trickery, like they had, because he was a magician. All magic is trickery and trying to fool people, but in a way that it doesn't look like you're being fooled. And he had like things underneath the table where he's moving his knee, and he can make things move, and different triggers and switches. And
Wasn't he the guy that died and said to his wife, like, if I come back, like, I'll come back to you or whatever, and then you can
They had, like,
leave
a
or
code
some weird
phrase.
shit.
Yeah.
They had a
Yeah,
code
yeah.
phrase.
Okay,
I'm
that
always
was
trying to
him,
get
right?
CJ to do this with me, but he won't do it.
come on, CJ.
CJ, get really into death with me. But like, case in point, though, I can definitely see how somebody would get like very caught up in the moment.
Oh, of course.
In a seance with emotions, running high, especially if the medium has something really compelling with ectoplasm.
I have to take this call. This is Megan.
All right, hold on.
We'll pause it.
We gotta take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Congratulations, Megan and Lindsay. They just got engaged. Woo!
Air claps! Woo-hoo!
I'm regular class.
Congratulations, ladies. We are so happy for you.
We love
and
you.
Absolutely disrupt the podcast for that, because that's an important call. We're so happy.
That's what I told
we
her.
can't wait.
She was like, well, you guys are going to be working, because she's been talking to me about this whole time. And I was like, be fucking for real. Like, call me.
Yeah,
like,
seriously.
Don't think you're not going to call me because of this podcast. You're just going to be on the podcast.
Well, congratulations, ladies. That's so exciting. And now back to Hannah.
Oh no. Okay. Bop 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 bop. When I saw a picture, okay, I saw. Okay. No, I gotta backtrack this so it makes.
I'm so sorry.
I'm like looking at photos of Helen Duncan, because I look at photos of the people who I talk about on the podcast.
Yeah, just like the guys you think
Yeah.
are handsome that have murdered their girlfriends and wives.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, he was handsome until he did the murders.
Extreme turn off.
Yeah,
You
it's-
killed someone.
Major red flag. But I was looking at pictures of Helen, and I'm looking at pictures from her seances, and like, they were these. She would conjure like specters. She would have apparitions at her seances, and they looked like. Have you ever seen those weird like open mouth caroling dolls?
Yes.
Yeah, some people got them. Like, everybody's grandma has them.
Yes.
Sometimes I'll see them in a house, and I'm like, ugh.
My grandmother has them. Yes.
Major piss poor vibes. But her apparitions that she like homemade all looked like that. They
Creepy.
were like stregonona made out of paper mache, like while you were wearing oven mitts. They were like barely human looking, and you gotta Google them, or we gotta put them in the show notes. Can you like put one on screen? Can you do that with editing? Because we're visual now.
I could.
You gotta like just.
Send me.
Just quick. The caroling scare.
You know what? I'll take that sound effect you just did too, and send me whatever picture you want me to put up.
Okay, I'll find it. It's because they're all
because we can do that now.
So that people that are listening on the podcast can either pause it or go back later and see.
Yeah, you can
right.
see them.
Yeah.
But we'll not do it with the shadow doll because you're not supposed to look at it.
Oh, true.
Then we had a fan call in and
It'd be
say
like,
oh yeah, I was
fucking
listening to the episode and looked up the shadow doll and dropped my phone on my face because they said I wasn't supposed to look at it.
Or me just showing all my friends at work, all my work friends. I'm like, look at this scary fucking doll, and then apparently it can kill you. So great.
And now we're all cursed. But like her dolls won't curse you. You'll just be like offended by how shit they look. I lost it. I had it and I lost it. Oh, I have here that they looked like they contained the souls of orphans, but they didn't because they were all fake.
Oh my god.
That's a
backstory.
A backstory.
Protestants.
If you were a Protestant,
orphan children in the spirits in these
in the ugly
paper mache apparitions.
Dolls. In the photos, like I don't have to describe them anymore because we're on, but they're bad cheesecloth ghosts. She made them out of like wire coat hangers and paper mache. They're just embarrassing. I would be embarrassed to.
You could do better in 10 minutes.
Oh, fucking absolutely. It was impossible to notice that these were like very fake, but for whatever reason, Helen and her husband, who like abetted her, would like they out and out refused to come clean. They refused, and people were still into it. People were still into it, even after they looked like absolute dog shit. In 1931, Helen was investigated by the London Spiritual Alliance, which concluded that her ectoplasm was a mixture of cheesecloth, egg white, and toilet paper, which Helen would swallow before the seance and then regurgitate as part of the performance. And that is literally the most horrifying thing that I have ever heard, because if there are two things that give me like the huge ick, one is raw egg and the other is vomit. Like under the umbrella term vomit, everything.
I just don't like vomiting in general. And
No!
And this stuff you shouldn't be swallowing.
No, it's bad for you.
Even though you're bringing it back up, you should not be.
It's bad. That's bad for your teeth. It's probably bad for your esophagus. You're gonna get cancer.
That's fucking gross.
Yeah, my biggest icks, Helen Duncan. Thank you very much. Helen's special effects are so terrible that I would think that, I thought she would immediately be called out. But she did not investigate easily. She was not very cooperative, and her behavior ranged from like normal feigning ignorance to like total public freak out. In one investigation, when convinced to swallow a tablet of methylene blue dye to test the claims of cheesecloth regurgitation, Helen, for whatever reason that she invented, other than the methylene blue, there was just no ectoplasm.
She couldn't do it then.
Yeah, she couldn't do it. Like, she obviously couldn't do it, because then she would be found out immediately.
Yeah.
And so, it's like barely even science, you know? It's just like, girl, what is the matter with you? On one memorable occasion, Helen was investigated by Harry Price, the famous psychic researcher and paranormal debunker known for his investigation at the Borley Rectory. Have we talked about that before?
We have not.
I'm sure I've mentioned Harry Price before. I think I might have talked about him a little bit in the Jeff the Mongoose one. He was known. He was the man.
Right.
.com.
You're right.
Helen entered Price's orbit when someone sent him a sample of her ectoplasm preserved in a bottle of distilled water. And he was originally enthusiastic about the sample, but very disappointed when a chemist's analysis proved the ectoplasm to be egg white again, and just broadly chemicals. He was then able to use these ingredients to a similar result, and he was like, girl, listen, we know that this is obviously, you're fucked up. You're fucking up. You're tricking people. As part of his, the full investigation of Helen Duncan that he did, he paid her around £50, which comes to about $5,500 in today's money, converted to, American. because of that's a lot of money.
Yeah.
You know? Like, regardless of what I was doing, I'd be like, you want to give me $5,500? I'll do whatever.
Well, you know we're priced now.
Hey, Dad. But because of the regurgitating allegations, Price asked Helen to submit to an x-ray, which is, like, reasonable and relatively non-invasive, or so you would think. But Helen absolutely flipped shit.
Of course.
According to the report that was written by Price, Helen lay down on a settee and began slipping into a trance. He then had a doctor bring in the x-ray machine. But, like, she refused the test. She started getting, like, squirrely about it. And her husband tries to calm her down. He's like, oh, no, babe, it won't hurt, whatever. She responded to this by fucking smacking him upside the head. And, like, which, by all accounts, sent the poor man reeling. And then she gets up and starts swinging for the doctor with the x-ray machine, but he dodged. So the doctor got out. And Helen then runs past him and out into the street, screaming at the top of her lungs, ripping at her clothes, and freaking out so hard that a crowd started to gather and someone called the police.
Oh my god.
Well, makes sense.
Yeah. It is probably worth mentioning at this point that Helen was not a particularly dainty woman. She was relatively tall and weighed about 240 pounds, which is like...
Okay, she's a thick girl.
You know, for reference, I am 230 pounds, thereabouts. So, like, imagine me flipping shit in the street. Like,
I always said one day you're going to knock out a motherfucker. Yeah. I would not want to see you pissed off.
You know, I took karate. I'm not particularly confrontational. But
no, you're not.
No, in general, I am very sweet.
Yeah, the shrug with the I took karate.
No, you can literally ask anyone that I was terrible at karate and I quit and I cried at 2 different points in my life. So, like, don't think that I'm a fucking karate master. I could probably body check a motherfucker.
I think so too.
Yeah,
that's what I'm imagining.
But like, I'm not gonna be able to, like, you know.
I've literally been laughing over here for 5 fucking minutes.
I'm sorry. I'm trying to get through it. It's chaos. But yeah, so Helen, she was a big girl. According to several other sources, Helen was also, like, relatively fucking terrifying. In the Mary Roach book, I think it was implied that she was somehow smelly and unhygienic and, like, living in squalor with her brood of nasty, sticky children. And I'm not sure how much of that is legitimate and how much of that is just, like, a low opinion of fat people, which, like, fucking, and I'm not sure who's, you know, more responsible for that, either Harry Price or Mary Roach. Like, people be hating the fats. Anyway, as Helen is restrained by her husband, Harry Price and the doctor are, like, explaining to the police who have arrived what's going on and why they shouldn't haul this woman away in an ambulance. But, you know, what's his name? Henry, her husband, Henry Duncan, is able to then calm Helen down enough to get her back into the house, where, surprisingly, she's like, oh yeah, I'll have the x-ray now.
Oh.
And the doctor is like, oh, the fuck no. Henry, turn out your fucking pockets. And he would not do it. So, it's theorized reasonably that whatever she did, she, like, puked up the cheesecloth and then passed it to her husband, who fucking had it in his pockets.
Yep.
And majorly gross. He's got, like, who does that?
That's gross.
It's very awful.
I'm sorry, my, like,
Extremely
mind was
horrifying.
catching up to what you were saying, and I'm just like, what the fuck?
I mean, if somebody was gonna be smelly, it would probably be because of, like, throwing up egg white and cheesecloth.
Yeah.
No, that's fucking gross.
Gross. But, like, it ruined the whole test. The x-ray was invalid, and everybody wasted their time and their money.
Yep.
And, like, everybody was mad. Concluding his investigation, Harry Price said, Could anything be more infantile than a group of grown-up men wasting time, money, and energy on the antics of a fat female crook?
I was laughing before you even read that and quoted him.
Because you knew it was coming.
Dang, that's
and like,
mean.
maybe it's not very nice, but it is pretty accurate. At least in the crook part. Like, fucking don't do it. But she was scamming vulnerable people, and that is not very cash money of her. But I think, like, the worst thing about Helen Duncan is that she's just embarrassing in public. However, that did not prevent her from being a practicing medium for another 13 years. The end kind of began for Helen at a Portsmouth seance in 1941, where Helen again garnered public attention by claiming that the spirit of a sailor materialized before her and informed her of the sinking of the British naval vessel, the HMS Barham? It's B-A-R-H-A-M. I don't know. Barham. Torpedoed off the coast of Egypt. The sinking of the Barham was not officially announced by the British Royal Navy until some months later, in January 1942.
Oh, that's interesting.
Right? And for that reason, it did get the attention of the Navy, because while they had informed the families of the loss of the Barham and, you know, their fucking sons who were on board, the families were told to, like, kind of keep this close, you know, because we're in the middle of the war and we're not trying to, like, leak info, whatever. So for this reason, there were 2 naval lieutenants at the next seance. One of them was confronted with a spiritual manifestation alleged to be his sister, who is actually alive and well at the time of the seance and for, you know, the rest of her life afterward. And he was, like, generally pretty pissed off about that, and called the fucking cops again. When the police arrived the next day, it was during yet another seance, and Helen herself was wrapped in white fabric and dressed as a ghost. Helen denied everything and attempted to hide the obviously visible fabric. Of course. This was the final straw, and Helen was... Oh, wait, no. Yes, okay, wait. Another detail is that there was a homemade replica of a naval hatband from the Barham found in her home, presumably as part of, like, a sailor costume.
Right, okay.
Like, they just found a bunch of shit in her house.
She was going to make a sailor ghost.
Yeah, she was. Yeah. So they were very pissed off about that, and actually because of this, a leak with the British Navy was then identified because some nerd did the math.
Of course.
Like, they tracked it back and they found the guy who leaked the information to the person who leaked the information, who then told, like, whoever, and Helen found out and was like, I can use this.
Oh, so she's still a fraud.
So yeah, she's still like shady as fuck. And that was the final straw because she pissed off the military during the war.
That was stupid.
Very stupid.
That was pretty stupid.
Very stupid, Helen. And they arrested her for that one. It was the final straw, and Helen was arrested under the Witchcraft Act of 1974, which is not actually a law against witchcraft, but against scamming people with fraudulent witchcraft. So it's like, oh, you're allowed to be a witch, just don't be a fucking fake witch who takes people's money.
Right, exactly.
Like,
hey, yeah,
which I'm like, you know
not?
what? Honestly, that's kind of reasonable.
That's fine.
So she wasn't arrested for being a witch. She was put on trial for her shenanigans alongside Ernest and Elizabeth Homer, who ran, like, some of the venues where she had seances, and the woman who was her agent, Frances Brown. There were 7 counts set against all of them, which is kind of impressive. And Helen was sentenced to 9 months in prison for her crimes. Her reaction was, I have done nothing wrong. Is there a God? Which is dramatic as fuck, Helen. You're gonna be fine. You took people's money, Helen.
Yeah, you know what you did.
You lied, Helen. You lied to people. You lied when they were sad.
You know what you did.
You know what you did, Helen. There's actually a memo from the desk of Winston Churchill to the Home Secretary Herbert Morrison complaining about the misuse of court funds and the obsolete tomfoolery of the Witchcraft Act, which is hilarious. To turn a phrase, we have Winston Churchill.
Yeah,
the law itself, the Witchcraft Act, would only exist for another 10 years before being absorbed as part of another law called the Fraudulent Mediums Act of 1951, and kind of ceasing to exist as obsolete tomfoolery part 2 electric boogaloo.
Boogaloo.
For her part,
I like that word.
Thank you. It's a good word. Does it mean anything? Is it in the dictionary? Who knows? It's a word now. For her part, upon her release in 1945, Helen declared that she would never again practice as a medium. That was a lie. She was...
Saw that one coming.
Right? No one's surprised, Helen. She was later arrested in 1956 for a seance at her home. Helen would then unfortunately die not long after this seance, with some of her diehard followers claiming that her death was caused by ectoplasm snapping back into her mouth when the raiding police officers arrived and turned on the lights, which is apparently a no-no during a seance. Like, you don't turn on the lights so they can't scam you. I can't scam them if the lights are on. But as a matter of fact, Helen had been in poor health for a long time, and her actual cause of death was probably heart-related.
Or related to swallowing things that she shouldn't be.
There you go.
Which you get taught that as a kid, so...
Yeah. Don't put it in your mouth. Helen's legacy continues to this day, with some supporters calling for a posthumous pardon. Personally, I am still offended by the papier-mâché ghosts, and I think she 100% deserved the charge. Prove me wrong. The charge was upheld in 2001, 2008, and 2012. Her legacy also continues in 2009, a metal band called the Seventh Sons released a song called The Last Witch in England, which is based upon her life. And there's also a radio play called The Last Witch Trial that was released by BBC Radio in... I didn't write it down, but I think it was like 2010. It was somewhere around there. It was in the 20-somethings. Most interestingly, I believe it was also mentioned by Mary Roach that there is a surviving piece of Helen Duncan's cheesecloth ectoplasm.
Ew.
It was in her mouth.
Germs. We don't want no stinking germs.
No, I mean that shit is probably so desiccated by now that it's nothing. But it is. I lost my spot. Help. It is still housed at the Cambridge University Library Museum and was featured in the Spellbound exhibit on the history of witchcraft at the Ashmolean Museum in Oxford in 2018, which is not that long ago.
No.
That's very true.
Yeah.
Everything you spoke of is actually not that long ago.
Yeah.
Which is wild.
And yeah, people were like table tipping and shit back like in the 1950s.
Yeah.
I mean, people are still doing that. That one guy that we were on his podcast, he was asking
Talk
us
about-
why
yeah.
we
that
don't
guy
table
was
tip.
like-
Yeah.
Yeah.
I felt kind of bad because I wanted to be like, bro, I think table tipping is bullshit. But I didn't want to offend this man. He was very, very nice to speak to
He was very,
us.
very
Yeah.
nice.
He was.
Yes.
Like, I'm not trying to shit on his life. Maybe
No.
they're legit. Cautious credulity. Right?
We wouldn't know until we try.
Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
so, but that said, they tried Helen Duncan a bunch of times, and it was it was bullshit every time. But that's all I
Duncan
wrote
is
about
nuts.
Helen Duncan. Yeah, she was. She
Oh
was
my
like an
goodness.
wild person.
Yeah, she was.
Like,
Well, that's interesting because this was really not that long ago. Jordan and I are going to break down some different kinds of witchcraft that you probably have heard of and whether or not it's actually considered witchcraft.
Yes.
But we're going to take a quick break and we'll be right back.
if you're loving the Ghost Encounters podcast, be sure to hit subscribe and drop us a 5-star rating. Stay connected with us on Facebook, Instagram, TikTok, and YouTube at Ghost Encounters PA. For haunted merch, head over to ghost-encounters.com and check out the spooky shop for all our exclusive items. Want to unlock the full Ghost Encounters experience? Become a spooky VIP on Patreon. With your membership, you'll get ad-free episodes, early access, discounts on exclusive merch, and bonus content that brings you closer to the mysteries and the macabre that we explore. Ready to join our haunted community and jump into the shadows? Visit patreon.com/Ghost Encounters Podcast and take your place among the VIPs of the paranormal.
Here's a hauntingly good drink to pair while you listen to Ghost Encounters podcast. It's mead from Colony Meadery, right here in the Lehigh Valley. Mead is alcohol made from honey, and Colony Meadery crafts one-of-a-kind meads from bold and flavorful to award-winning classics. Whether you like sweet, tart, zesty, or refreshing, they have a flavor to match anyone's taste. Discover your new favorite spirit at colonymeadery.com. Looking for a marketing company that's hauntingly effective? Well, Ghost Marketing Company provides expert white label marketing for your business. They bring your brand to life with social media management, eye-catching graphics, targeted ad campaigns, and stunning photography and video production. With Ghost Marketing, you get all the benefits of a marketing team without big agency pricing. It's so good, it's scary. Are you ready to grow your business? Visit ghostmarketingco.com. That's ghostmarketingco.com. And we are back. Jordan, why don't you take it away?
Okay, so I chose to do Brujería. I'm hoping that I pronounce everything right. Sorry in advance because I suck and I'm terrible with English, let alone a different language. So apparently, Brujería translates to witchcraft. Don't know if anybody knew that. I found that out while doing research. I'll just be talking really, really quick, doing a really, really vague summary. Just because it's so in-depth with Brujería and also Santería, I'll talk about Santería too. There's so much, like, to do a deep dive, it would be just one episode of just Brujería and just Santería.
Because these are like their actual belief systems.
Yes,
they are.
Yeah.
They are. And people have brought these two terms in with witchcraft for a very long time.
Yeah.
So I'm excited to kind of hear about it and learn a little bit more.
So it's like, it's a multifaceted tradition, and like obviously I said, further exploration may be necessary to fully appreciate its depth and richness. Now I'll be highlighting its nature and how things blend together. Let's just say it like that. Historical context as well, and modern practices here, and some key points in my research are, dramatic flip the page. Brujería is a blend of indigenous African and European spiritualistic traditions, often incorporating elements of Catholicism, which I thought was really like flabbergasting. I had no idea that they interpreted like that kind of stuff together in a blend. Some historical context is Brujería was Brujería has faced they kind of were trying to shun it, and they didn't want people to do it, particularly during colonial times. However, with the growing cultural nationalism and a shift in different attitudes, it has experienced like upcoming, and how people are trying to bring it back, and they want people to kind of get into it.
Yeah, because it's like a cultural belief system.
Well, it's just like learning like the occult here. Like they just kind of want people to get into it, and it doesn't have to be a bad thing.
No,
exactly.
not.
But back in time, anything that wasn't Catholic or Protestant or whatever was bad. Yeah, they always did.
If it's
which is unfortunate.
Something other than Christianity, it is it can be considered by the powers that be to be like demonic.
Yeah. So some modern practices, I kind of broke this down into individualized approach. So Brujería is not a formal hierarchical practice. Rituals are often personalized and based on practitioners' intuition and connections with the spirits.
So basically, there's
cool.
not one big supreme being in this belief.
Yeah. The next bullet I have is spirit communication, practice. Why can I not say that fucking word? Practitioners rely on divination. I love that word. Possessions and other techniques to communicate with spirits, deities, and ancestors.
Which is interesting because when I looked up, they do that too. So there's a lot of
Hannah trying to stealth mode open her soda.
Look, I'm sorry.
But spiritual connection, talking to spirits, is actually very common in some of these other religions.
Yeah. And I had to look up divination because, like, sure, I've seen it in video games, but I'm like, what do I really do? Like, you know, like, what is it really about?
Yeah.
And it's cool.
Like
I saw,
seeing
like,
the future kind of sort
yeah,
of.
like, they, like, will, like, burn stuff and they have, like, certain things laying in front of them and, like, they themselves can, like, kind of channel things and you know, they can use it for healing. They can use it for telling people, like, some stuff about their future and everything. Like, I was watching a couple of videos and I was like, this is pretty cool. Like, something interesting to look into. My next bullet is focus on transformation. Brujería aims to transform individuals' emotional, physical, and spiritual states through healing, divination, and magic rituals. My next bullet, submissions to spirits. Practitioners, oh, I got it right that time.
You did it.
Emphasize faith and surrender to the will of the spirits, believing that they possess the knowledge and the power to guide and assist, which is pretty cool. It's like spiritualism. Like, it's just
Yeah.
something you go with the flow with.
Like it's like spiritualism, but you don't have like Helen Duncan puking.
Yeah, like these like from what I've gathered in doing research on both of these things, they just really strongly have a great belief in what they're doing.
They're the only okay. You know what? I'm sorry. I'll save this. I'll save this till we get to Santería.
Okay, so I have some additional information. So assistance and adaptation. Brujería has evolved over time, as everything does. Adapting and changing to social and cultural contexts, it has served as a form of resistance against oppression and means of preserving cultural heritage. My next little bullet, I love that I bulleted it. It's so much easier to read.
It's so
Right.
organized.
A bulleted list.
It's nice. The next one's just like this too. Diversity of practices. While there are commonalities among Brujería practitioners, there's also significant diversity in beliefs, rituals, and techniques. I love that there's diversity. Like, so you can all, like, study Brujería together, but, like, some people may like it one way and some people kind of do their things the other way, which is cool. Like, that you have differences.
Yeah.
Especially in one specific type of something.
I think that's kind of what.
I love it.
Yeah, it's a positive, I would say, to something that is less of an organized religion and more of something that you personally feel like within yourself as your belief system.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Rather than because some guy told you fucking so.
Yeah.
Like,
So, ethical considerations. As with any other spiritual practice, it is important to approach Brujería with respect. Respect. Do not be disrespectful.
That's tough for some people.
I know, including myself. So,
yeah, I was gonna say it's
respect
me
it.
on people.
Especially
I'm
during
sorry.
certain events that we will not talk about.
Yes.
Oof.
Humility and willingness to learn. Practitioners should be mindful of the potential consequences of their own actions and avoid harming others, which is like personal gain and like Wicca and other shit.
Right.
Yeah.
Like
Don't do black magic, or don't do hexing, which is harming people.
Yeah.
You know.
Do they in Brujería? Is there like a rule of threes kind of concept? Like
I
where
don't know.
if you. Oh no! I drank Coke and I'm gonna burp.
I don't think I am well equipped to answer that.
Okay, I'll look it up because I don't know shit either. So
Yeah, it like literally I was Googling and sometimes it's hard to find in English. Like
that's fair.
Yeah,
you know,
that's
it's all
fair.
in like Espanol and stuff like that, Spanish, and you're sitting there and you're trying to translate or use translation, and it's almost like, bitch, get out of here. I was saying briefly, like, ask a professional. They probably don't want us to just Google it.
Yeah, right.
Because the internet is the internet, it's whack, and sometimes they tell you the wrong fucking shit.
If not outright lying.
Yeah.
That also happens.
And like I said before, there's like more layers to all of this. It could be valuable if you were interested in anything that I said to do a bigger deep dive.
Yeah.
But moving on, we'll go to Santería, which is way more complex.
Oh boy.
Like, it's super complex. I'm not even going to try to say that I understand anything about it. I'm just going to give another brief overview so we can keep this shit rolling. And Santería is not to be confused with Brujería. They are completely different to me. Like, they are, like, one seems a little bit more, and I don't mean to sound insensitive or like dumb it down, but like it sounds more like a craft, like a practice.
Sure.
And Santería seems like a full-fledged fucking religion.
Oh,
Like,
okay.
This is something that they live, breathe, and do every waking moment of their lives.
It's like a little more structured,
Yes,
maybe.
it's not like you just were like, okay, I need to do this real quick, and then, I'm going to go back to my 9 to 5. This is like they incorporate this shit into their lives, their entire fiber of their being.
Jeez.
So, Santeria is fascinating and complex, like I said, and a religion with a rich history. Interestingly, it blends elements of the Yoruba. Did you say that's how that is pronounced, Hannah?
Yoruba?
Yoruba.
Yes.
Never even heard that word.
Traditions, which is like African, Nigeria elements and stuff like that. From what I gathered, correct me if I'm wrong.
A specific tribe. Tribe.
Yeah. With Roman Catholicism, kind of like Brujería, I guess you can say. It kind of blends things together between the two cultures in a way of that Catholic saints and rituals are into its practice, which I thought was interesting. Yeah. So some key points are my first bullet. Its origins. It's developed in Cuba during the 19th century among enslaved Africans in the Yoruba region of West Africa. It was spread, so they unfortunately took these people from Africa, and it started spreading around the Caribbean, and then it got to Cuba, and that's where they hid it from, like Catholicism, and tried to do their own thing and kind of incorporate everything together in a big mush, and it became this awesome thing that we're talking about.
A big mush. Yeah, it really do be like that sometimes.
So it combines Yoruba beliefs, rituals, and deities that they call orishas. I hope I'm pronouncing that right, with Catholic saints and practices. So literally it's blending and making its own thing, which is super, super interesting. Some diversity is there's no central authority leading to diverse practices and beliefs amongst practitioners. It's like I was watching this podcast, me and Hannah were talking about it when this thing was all messed up. I was listening to a different podcast, and this guy, he's really funny, and he was talking about... I think
it's Joey Diaz.
Yeah, I have no idea who it was, but he was like, because he curses, and he, says some slurs, and he's like going off, and then all of a sudden he gets super serious when he's talking about Santeria. Like super serious, has the utmost respect for it, and he kind of talks about it in a way that like, it's not the same now that it used to be. So they kind of like in his household, they took that shit super seriously. It wasn't just some funny thing that people are like, yeah, you go and you sacrifice cats and, you dance around a fire naked. So he was he had a really good way of like breaking it down in a funny, and if you're a sensitive person, don't listen to it. But in my opinion, it's worth a listen to because he's just like a normal person. Like he looks just like a normal person. He's not who you would expect, I guess.
I think Joey Diaz is a comedian, so he's obviously.
Well, it was on Joe Rogan. It was on Joe Rogan's podcast too, and he's kind of out there as well.
A big yikes.
Yeah. But I was just trying to gather anything, and like I said before, you really can't find too much online. I tried to look up other podcasts on Spotify, and there's really not like a Brujería versus Santeria podcast unless it's in Spanish, and obviously, unfortunately, I don't know Spanish.
Right.
Which sucks.
I mean, that said, it's still super interesting to think about how that evolved from really like a bunch of different little bowls of culture that have been kind of incorporated together as people assign their own meanings to different parts of different religions.
And like it's not like you can just be like, yeah, I practice Santeria. Like these people like have like initiations, they have like, it's very like, I know that it says it's not like a central authority. In my opinion, I think that everybody's their own piece of authority in the religion.
Self-governing.
Yeah.
Very and I'm sure there's a large amount of that is protective. Being that this is a religion from people who have been enslaved and stolen from their home and forced to assimilate.
Yeah.
So that's I think in and of itself the fact that religions like Santeria and Brujeria's like belief system are still evolving and growing, and that they mean so much to so many people.
I like that it's something that didn't die out over time.
Absolutely.
And that it's stuck around. Even if it's not the way that some people want it to be, it's still being talked about, still being, practiced. Whether it's not the same way as another person, it's still out there. Pretty cool. Mm-hmm. So this Orishas, I don't know if I'm pronouncing that right.
I think so.
That's how I would.
I tried so hard to learn all the definitions, but I just like it's just too much. It's really in depth. I need like years of practice to even begin. These are the divine spirits or deities in Santeria, each associated with a specific natural force and human qualities. I know I have it somewhere in my notes, but this is a perfect time to talk about it. They like believe that oxygen
is a spirit or is a deity or something like that.
It's
That's cool.
something super spiritualistic, and also like water and all that stuff. Like literally everything. It's just so it's really cool. I kind of like that it's a lot of like herbology stuff. You know?
Shamanic.
Yeah, like it's really nature.
Yeah.
It's cool.
Mm-hmm.
So for practices I have, it includes divination, offering, ceremonies, and spiritual possession, which freaks me out, but okay, moving on.
When you let them ride you.
Ritual.
Yeah, that's what they say. I'm not just being gross.
Yeah, well, you know where that went with my mind. So.
I know where it went with your
All right,
mind.
I was trying to stay
serious.
serious.
Continue.
Okay. Ritual emphasis. Santeria prioritizes correct rituals over beliefs, which I thought was pretty cool.
There's like a way you're supposed to do it.
Yeah. Secret society. Many practices are kept secret, especially from all of us here at this table.
Yeah.
Hey,
We don't know the cool shit.
I'm minding my business, I promise.
Now this language, they speak in a certain language in rituals. It is seen as a divine language for communication with the deities, those orishas. It's kind of spelled funny. I looked it up and I already forget how to pronounce it. Lukumi language?
Ooh. Oh yeah, okay.
I think
was
it's cool
looking
that
at
they have their own like I don't know. I don't want to say their own language, but they have like a divine language.
Right.
Is
That
it
they're
like
this is how we speak to our spirits?
is it something that has like grammar and rules, or is it something that just like
Yeah, I think it does.
Okay.
I think it does.
Because I know
Oh, wow.
there are
'Cause
certain
I
like,
looked up how to pronounce the language itself, and they had like a whole video of like literally saying things, and I'm just like, whoa,
that's cool.
it sounds like a full ass language. But I could be wrong, so
Yeah. I mean, I know that there
feel free to
are,
correct me. That's all right.
like certain sects in Christianity will like speak in tongues. I went to a church with a friend of mine when I was
No, this seems like they like
like
communicate.
it's a thing.
Yeah, it's not just like some
just people saying
glossolalia where people out here just
yeah.
going nuts. So the Yoruba connection, Lukumi, that language that we just talked about, derives from Yoruba, although the language has evolved and fragmented over time. Well, I guess if we would have continued, it would have answered your question a little bit better.
I'm sorry, I
No.
interrupted.
No, that's fun. I like when you interrupt and talk to me. I interrupt too, but sometimes it's just utter nonsense.
Same.
Okay. Santeria rituals are central to the religion, often involving music, dance, and offerings to the Orisha. These rituals are believed to establish and maintain a connection between the spiritual and the physical worlds. So I put down some key rituals and kind of bullet points like I've been going. So the first one is consultations with the Orishas. Hold on, I want to get my bearings here before I mess anything up. This often involves divination using cowrie shells. What are cowrie shells? Do you guys know? I didn't look it up.
I have no idea.
They're like puka, on a puka shell
Oh,
necklace.
okay.
Those are cowries.
If anyone's gonna know, it's gonna be Hannah.
Yeah, I know. That's why I asked.
If I'm wrong, please come for me in the comments.
That's
don't
why
know.
I asked,
Just
because-
tell me I'm bullshit. Like, it's fine.
Or other tools to seek guidance from the Orishas. They're like god saints, whatever you want to call them. Also, I read about the use of possessions to provide like evidence or issues or warnings. Like I read that like some people they'll get possessed, and then if depending on who is there, they can like demand like gifts for being in their presence, and some other stuff like that I thought was really, really interesting. Offerings. Practitioners make offerings of food, drink, and other items to the Orisha to gain favor and blessings. I did read a little bit about animal sacrifices, but it got really, really technical. Like, depending on like what kind of animal that they give, or stuff like that. It all has different meanings. I didn't want to talk too much about it because I don't really like the thought of animal sacrifices. I don't want to make anybody upset. But I do know that they do it for offerings. So some ceremonies, these can be elaborate events involving drumming, and even the drumming, the bongos have like a specific like name and stuff that I can't even begin to understand.
You gotta do it a certain way.
Yeah, like it's like very, very specific.
It's specific in a way that feels very old.
Yeah.
Like, this is something that's been like
Yeah.
handed down, essentially probably verbally.
Yeah.
You know, like it's a verbal tradition of, or a non-written tradition of religion.
So drumming, singing, and dancing, they are often held to mark significant life events such as births, weddings, and deaths. I know that they talked about in the one research thing, like that the death, and they talk about their head specifically and everything. So it like even death is like super specific. Like they have, there's so much information. It's a lot.
I'm just surprised already there's a lot of similarities between Santeria and what I'm going to talk about.
Oh, cool.
Next.
Because I don't know anything about it.
Did you do
surprising.
Voodoo? Did you do voodoo?
I did, but we'll get to that. We'll get to that.
It's a little voodoo-y.
Yeah.
Because I think they do orishas in voodoo as well.
Oh, really? Cool.
Honestly, I don't know shit.
Well, you're going to find out
Neither
soon.
do I.
Yeah, we're learning today.
All right, let me keep going because I'm almost done here. Healing is super important in Santeria. This includes skin complaints, which I would love because my skin is always a fucking mess. Gastrointestinal and respiratory problems. Oh my God, are they talking about me?
This will fix you.
Then, unfortunately, there's sexual transmitted infections and issues of female reproduction. Some practitioners provide concoctions to induce abortions as well. Santeria healers will typically use divination to determine the cause of an ailment before prescribing any treatment, which is super dope. They're like literally little doctors out here just doing the unthinkable.
Doing the important shit that people need.
Yeah. So like I said, I was talking about like herbalism and like, you know, plants and everything. It's a super major component of Santeria healing practices as well. It is more valuable to get the plants naturally in the wild than in a store or like being cultivated somewhere. Which is like they want to be one with nature, and they believe that everything has a little extra finesse to it. You got to go the natural way.
So it's interesting, and I don't mean to interrupt again.
Yeah,
but,
go ahead.
There's a fine connection between healers or witch doctors, as they ended up being called, because back in very, very early time, to be able to have the knowledge or the thought or the look of being able to grab herbs and grinding them up and putting them on a wound and healing an abscess or something was witchcraft. But there actually were healers and there were herbal doctors in different cultures. I talked about this a little bit in the investigation we did at Hexenkopf Rock, where we had Brauschers or German healing doctors settling in this area in Williams Township, just down the street, and they were thought of as witches because who grinds up herbs in a mortar and pestle and is able to cure things like that? So there's a huge connection between.
Fucking, like, I don't know, put arsenic on it.
But there's a huge connection in history between these herbal healers, these healing doctors, and witches, because that's how sometimes this connection gets made.
Yeah. Initiations, which we were talking about earlier. Individuals can undergo initiation ceremonies to become more deeply connected with the Orisha. This process often involves a period of seclusion and spiritual cleansing. Also going back to that one guy that you obviously know his name.
Joey Diaz.
Literally listened to it today and don't even remember his name. He talked about how he was initiated and how they had to when you take a saint, you they take you to a certain place and they splash this water on you with a certain number, and then you have to shave your head, do normal initiation stuff, and then they seclude you and you can only wear certain things and you can only do certain things, which is so cool to me that they take the initiation really seriously and they're like, okay, now you're one of us after you just did all that. I thought that was really interesting when he was talking about that. Can't grab my paper.
I've seen some of Joey Diaz's stand-up because CJ's a fan.
I have to look him up because I need to make sure that that's the
Yeah, that's just because he's the guy that I know who's big and loud from New York and talks about fucking Santería. Like, so like, oh yeah, it's got to be that same guy. So if it isn't, fucking sorry, everybody.
Yeah, it is him. That is him.
Thank God. Thank God.
Yeah, that guy. I was listening to you. He just had a funny way of explaining it, and like he took it really seriously, and then he kind of broke it down. You know, since he knows exactly what he's talking about, unlike me, who has these little bullets on our paper.
Doing our best. He's interesting. Interesting guy.
So the saints, the Orishas, are divine spirits or deities in Santería. Like we said, each is associated with a specific... Wait, I already talked about this.
Yes.
Yes, I already talked about that bullet. Did I mess my papers up? Oh, no.
No, you didn't mess the paper up. I think it might have just been...
It's just been a repeat.
Yeah, but that's okay.
I probably put it in there twice. My bad, y'all. Okay. So there's so much more to learn. Like I've been saying this whole time, there's a shit ton of different names, structures, beings. But I just wanted to say some little key points. But it's almost as if we need a professional. I even reached out to a couple people, and some of them said that they themselves don't feel enough of a professional, because I was like, do you want to come on and speak about it, and blah blah blah,
I
blah.
have people come on and speak about
I did get a message from Belle, but she talked I think more about Brujería than Santería. I don't know if her family practices, but she knew a little bit. So I'm like, cool. Maybe I'll have to pull you aside at the next party and be like, girl, show me more.
In the future, like, come on, please talk about it on the podcast. Like, no more than we do, please.
Yeah.
I am limited.
Yeah, but in my small little itty bitty research, Brujería and Santería both have very, very, very a lot to learn. Like, there's so much to learn.
And I know that this episode is entitled Witchcraft. It's just that when you ask a regular person on the street to give us some different types of witchcraft, these are the things they come up with. Yeah. Obviously, after doing research and after you know about it more, it's not witchcraft, but it's easy to see how it's a long time ago they thought of it as witchcraft.
Yeah.
You know?
Misapprehensions of our fathers.
All right, now I'm going to get into voodoo. Now, I didn't even realize this until I started looking it up, but the correct spelling of voodoo is Vodou.
I saw that.
We've always seen it spelled Voodoo. Mm-hmm. Apparently, voodoo spelled that way is kind of like the Western derogatory term for voodoo.
I'm sorry. Yeah, that tracks.
Yeah. So, it's a spiritual tradition with roots in West African religions brought to Haiti by enslaved Africans in the 17th and 18th centuries. The religion combines elements of African spirituality, indigenous Taino beliefs, and aspects of Catholicism due to colonial influence. So we have that.
Sounds relatable.
Yeah, right. Voodoo emphasizes connection with spirits known as Loa, who act as intermediaries between humans and supreme creator called Bondai, a term derived from French bon Dieu, meaning good God. Voodoo teaches that all things, people, animals, objects, contain spirits, and that by honoring the spirits, individuals can seek healing, guidance, protection, and prosperity. Some of the key beliefs in this is that the Bondai and the Loa, the Bondai is the supreme creator, is distant and generally not directly involved with human affairs. For the day-to-day matters, voodoo practitioners turn to the Loa, who oversee various aspects of life, such as health, nature, things like that. Each Loa is unique, has its own personality, preferences, and domains.
They're like little gods. They're like saints or guardian spirits.
Right,
sometimes.
And they are directly beneath this supreme God that pretty much wants nothing to do with humans. That God just like, hey,
God has
little guys, you take care of it.
If I were to ever be a god, can that please be me? But
each Loa is very unique. None of them look the same, act the same, do the same thing. They're all for a very specific purpose. Now, the role of ancestors plays a huge part in voodoo as well. Ancestor veneration is crucial in voodoo. Practitioners believe that deceased family members maintain a presence in the spiritual world, often offering protection and guidance. Honoring ancestors fosters a link between the past and the present. The visible and invisible world. So you spoke about this a little bit. Voodoo sees reality as composed of two worlds: the visible and the physical, the invisible and the physical world of humans. The invisible obviously is the world of the spirits, the Loa.
Yeah.
The invisible world is considered just as real as the physical world, and ceremonies and rituals allow practitioners to connect with that plane.
Cool.
So they literally think of the spiritual world and our world as 100% both the same as reality. It's just they do certain ceremonies to connect with that world.
Cool.
I have been, or I guess it's been explained to me, and I can't tell you where, so this, I might also be talking out of my ass again, but it was once explained to me that there's a major difference between like a lot of Western religions and Christianity, etc., and a lot of Eastern religions and stuff like Voodoo and Santería, where you are essentially surrounded by spirits all the time.
All the time.
Oh my god.
And there goes the microphone.
Oh my gosh.
It was bound
That's
to
because we
happen.
talk with our hands so bad. I didn't realize
do.
until I was standing here like this the whole time. I was like,
But you know what? Now you're watching me do it, so now it makes more sense instead of me just doing like fucking noodle arms all over the place while we're just talking into the mic.
oh gosh.
But yes, other belief systems have a lot more where you're just like swimming in a soup of spirits,
Right.
rather than just like, you know, God's up there and the saints are over in church and you're fucking around. I don't know.
Right.
You're alone. But I don't know. I guess unless you're not.
Now, do you remember we did that episode on Mary Laveau
Yeah.
and Madame Lalaurie?
Yeah.
Really good episode, by the way. Go listen to that because it's really cool. After doing that episode and now looking more into actual voodoo, it really made a lot of sense. So there are ceremonies at the heart of voodoo practice. They involve singing, drumming, dancing, just like you were saying in
Yeah.
Santería, offerings, creating an environment where practitioners can communicate with the Loa. During ceremony, practitioners may be possessed by the Loa, who temporarily inhabit the body of the person, sharing wisdom,
They ride them.
guidance.
That's what it's called. I'm not weird.
You are weird, though.
Yeah, that's true. I'm sorry.
We're all
Like,
just a little weird.
Yeah.
I like conceptually, I find it appealing. I find the like being not ridden in the sexual way, but ridden in like an animal. You
Right,
know?
right,
Like
yeah,
you've got this spirit like clinging to your back and beating you with a fucking stick. You know? That's why I feel. I think it's like it's amusing and it's evocative and like as I don't know. Maybe I am weird. I'm sorry. Continue. I'm sorry.
I love the shit out of you. You know that.
You.
All right. These ceremonies often celebrate the Loa with a feast for days, serving as healing, protective rituals. Individuals or communities, like they want to protect everyone. This reminded me of Mary Laveau, the Voodoo Queen of New Orleans, because they spoke about her ceremonies at this one specific spot. I forget if it was an island or it was a specific spot of land where she'd have these like long ceremonies for days, and they involved drumming and singing and fire and all kinds of stuff. So obviously, back in that time, if you see that, you're thinking, "Oh my God, look at this witch out here." You know what I mean?
I think that honestly, in this current time, me being the person that I am, if somebody set me out at this ceremony and like maybe I had a couple of shots, maybe it's been a couple of days and I'm out in the wilderness with strangers and there's like fire and jumping light and drumming, I would absolutely get real fucking weird with it. I don't even know, like I cannot describe to you what I might potentially do if the circumstances were right, and I don't think that I am unusual in that. You know?
I mean, we have fires all the time, and sometimes we sing. It might be Wheels on the Bus.
Yeah.
Shout out to Meredith. But we sing and dance and get weird sometimes. But this is a little bit more, intricate and has a meaning and a reason behind it.
But I feel like in general, like it isn't the wheels on the bus, but I feel like I'm sorry, but I feel like in the context that would probably feel really good and like really cathartic, and that's how you make a religion out of that.
Yeah.
You know?
We honestly cannot take anything seriously.
No, sorry.
No, sorry.
And somebody's gonna be like, "You guys are insensitive." Sorry,
No,
we're just
no,
having
no,
fun with
Now,
it.
there's a
I'm
lot
not
of
making fun. I feel like it would be good.
Yeah.
It would be good. I'm not making fun.
there's a lot of misconceptions of voodoo. Obviously.
Yeah.
It's been long misunderstood, especially in Western media, which often depicts voodoo as dark and malevolent. And the term voodoo is associated with myths about curses and hexes and black magic and voodoo dolls, which don't happen in voodoo, actual voodoo at all.
They're not
Voodoo
actually
dolls
a
are
thing.
actually completely made up. There was a
Oh, I
term.
like the voodoo dolls.
I know, but apparently, from everything that I read, it's not actually a thing. There are, I think, voodoo,
You get like they
voodoo
get
that
fetish
was
bags and stuff.
voodoo that was passed in England. They had kind of a doll, but not used as a voodoo doll. It was more like a doll to like honor the spirits or something like that.
Like something you put on an altar.
Yeah.
Let's just knock the mic off.
Obviously, these misconceptions come from colonial fears, and then further exaggerated by Hollywood and things like that.
White people
There's a few important spirits or loas. First one, Papa Legba. Everyone has heard of Papa Legba, right? He was seen in American Horror Story.
I don't know who Papa.
But he is the guardian of the crossroads.
Oh.
Papa Legba is the gatekeeper between human and spirit worlds. Before any ceremony, he is invoked to open the way for communication between our world and the Loa.
I just got a little chill. I think that's cool.
That is
I think
cool.
that's really like it.
In American Horror Story, they envision Papa Legba, and you see him as like kind of like the guardian who's going to take your soul to the underworld.
Is he like which one's the trickster spirit? Is it Papa Legba
What does he look
or
Well, so in American Horror Story, I remember they ask Papa Legba for things, but he asks for things in return, and I think he tries to trick you to get what he wants and not what you want. I don't know if there's a specific trickster, but that's how they kind of portrayed him in American Horror Story.
Cool.
And we have Urzuli Freda and Urzuli Dantor. Urzuli is a spirit of love, beauty, femininity, embodying different aspects in her. Freda, romantic, love, fraternity, and Dantor, protection, motherhood. Now, obviously, what we know about Mary Laveau, the real Mary Laveau, she was doing practices to help people who were dealing with infertility, who were trying to be mothers, and you actually see that in American Horror Story as well, where she does rituals and
I've
stuff
never
to help
watched,
people
so I
get
wouldn't
pregnant.
know.
It's really good. Obviously, it's not a true representation of voodoo and Mary Laveau.
I
but
slack so bad with TV shows. I'm such a documentary whore.
it's okay,
I try. I just fall out of it.
But it's interesting to see how, they have these rituals, they have these loas who are for specific things, whether it be healing, love, fertility, anything like that. And you see that in how Mary Laveau was portrayed in some of these things. But so there is some truth to that. But in the real story of Mary Laveau, people did actually go to her for these things.
Yeah.
like she was well respected.
Not
and
just that,
wise.
but impotence.
For old timey boners.
Yeah. They didn't have the magic blue pill for old men, so what do? They went to her. And
That
she
shit's
would do
generic now. You can get the radio in my car says you can get that shit real cheap.
But-
I'm sorry. Continue.
But a lot of people went to her for love and things like that, and she would practice her voodoo rituals to try to help out. So yeah, voodoo is not what everyone thinks it actually is.
Yeah, like it's not this boogeyman.
I feel
Yeah.
like, but how all of this today has gone for witchcraft, I feel like we're all just like, wow, like that's not what I thought.
Yeah,
Like,
all
you-
of these different
You think
things
of
we
like
thought of as
sacrifices,
witchcraft.
human sacrifices and shit like that. Like, let me put your knuckle bone out here on this wood. That's like what you think about, and it's really more beautiful than that.
Yeah.
Actually.
Yeah, it's literally just the fears of old Catholics back in the day is
Yeah.
how this kind of came to be as all witchcraft.
Thanks a lot,
Yeah.
white people.
Oh.
And also, you know what? You get people who are like obvious frauds, like Helen Duncan, who are just like out there muddying the waters for people who are trying to fucking mind their business and do their thing in their own home.
Maybe we should have titled this "Is It Witchcraft?"
Yeah.
Is it witchcraft?
But obviously, I wouldn't consider any of these things witchcraft, especially
Whatever the fuck
Yeah.
Helen Duncan
Whatever she
had
did.
going on.
Do we want to save our spooky fan story for
I
next time?
think we
'Cause
will.
This is a little long.
So this was a very
Yeah,
long
okay.
episode. Obviously, this is our first time back, our first time on video.
We're a
It's a little
mess.
bit long. We're a little bit of a mess. We just had a phone call. Congratulations
Yeah.
again, Megan and Lindsay.
Congratulations, Megan and Lindsay.
This is so great. So we do have a spooky fan story. We're gonna save it for next time. But as always, please, give us a 5-star rating, subscribe, share the podcast around. It really helps us. And send in some spooky fan stories.
Yes.
Season 4 is back, and we are
We're back,
here on video.
bitches.
If you want to see our reactions as we read your spooky story, whether it's, a tradition in your family or something weird that happened to you. Jordan wants an alien story. I know
I've
people
been
have seen aliens
waiting.
before.
Yeah.
Doesn't matter how long or short it is, just send in your spooky
It could
fan
literally
story.
be
It could
2
anything.
sentences.
We want to hear from you.
Doesn't matter.
And the aliens.
It doesn't even matter if it happened to you. If a friend told you what happened to them or something happened in your family a long time ago, just send
Yeah.
it in.
Yeah.
We'll read it, and it's really cool. People really enjoy that part of the podcast because it makes them feel like they're not alone, they're not crazy when they have personal stories themselves.
It's me, I'm people. I enjoy that part of the podcast.
Well, I hope we did not scare all of our fans away, showing our faces and how nuts we are.
Yeah, don't look. This
But,
is us. We're
yeah.
beautiful.
This is us, and we're here for a while. We're so happy we're back. By the way, these wonderful decorations, Jordan and I, we kind of threw this together.
You did a good job.
Yeah.
Yeah.
This candle is that's from my grandmother. She's had that for years.
I like how
Uh,
it flickers.
This
I have been
creepy doll.
Penelope.
Thank you, Maggie. Shout out to Maggie. She got that for me at a horror expo. She hid it, and yeah, it was a really cool gift. So now she's part of it. Jordan, what'd you name her?
Penelope.
She's
Penelope?
now.
Phoebe.
No, Phoebe. Phoebe.
Oh fuck! I fucked it up.
So this is Phoebe. She is here to stay for a
Penelope
while.
and Phoebe, like, how did we? I feel like I even may have called her Penelope. Before.
It's,
No, I like
it's
Phoebe
late.
better.
I
We're
like
hungry.
Phoebe.
Yeah.
Phoebe.
All right.
Doom and gloom.
Well, that's her name. She's Phoebe, in case anyone's wondering. Yeah, let us know how you enjoyed seeing us on video. This is really awesome. And
Or
yeah.
if you didn't,
Or
let
if
us
you
know too.
Or if you didn't.
Harass me in
We
the
can-
comments section below.
All right. Well, we love you guys. As always, stay spooky.
I don't have one outro.
Oh no, I wasn't prepared. Fuck! I forgot that we did this bit, you guys.
You forgot? It hasn't been that long?
It
Be
has been an
respectful.
eternity.
Okay.
There's my outro. Be respectful.
Okay, let's try this again, shall
Okay,
we?
yes.
All right. Well, that's all the time we have for today. Stay spooky.
Be respectful.
And do not swallow the cheesecloth.